Sorry about that. We would like to call the regular meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is to determine that we have a quorum. We do. Lovejoy Rose, Swanson, Stumbo, and Eldridge are here. Gloria Peterson did reach out, and she will not be making it this evening. I call the meeting to order at 6:01. And if you're able to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Those remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Just so people are aware, we're doing a pilot and actually videotaping, audio and videotaping the meeting. And let's see, we'll post it on YouTube like we did on our informational meeting that we had last week. On approval of the agenda, we do have a request to add under other business, approval to send letters to elected officials in support of Resolution 2025-23, which is to move the U of M proposed data site computation project from Textile Road. So if it's all right with board members, could we add that?
Yes.
Add that as I request that we add it as a number 1 before we go into closed session.
Fine with me.
Yep. Okay. The first item on the agenda is to approve the consent agenda.
As long as everybody agrees.
We have a consent agenda, which are minutes of December 16th, 2025, regular meeting, statements and checks, and the treasurer's report. Motion is in order?
So moved.
Support.
Motion Rowe, support Eldridge. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is the Attorney General legal update. Mr. Winters?
Madam Chair, I would just like to maybe just limit my comments this evening just to the follow-up to the January 14th public informational meeting that was held here at the Township. And at the outset, I just want to express my deepest thanks to all of you, the administrative staff, and everyone who actually braved the inclement weather that evening to come out and listen to the Township Board try and give you an update in regards to where the Township has been and where we are today regarding the efforts to prevent the University of Michigan and Los Alamos to construct 2 data centers at the corner of Bridge and Textile Roads. As all of us are aware, the 20 acres that was initially purchased will now be the site they've selected for a 110 to 200 megawatt substation with the attendant transmission lines. There's enough energy that will be produced, enough electricity to actually equal the entire current energy output in Ypsilanti Township. Not to mention, the only access road that leads into South Hydro Park is located between the 20 acres on the corner of Bridge and Textile and the 124 acres that's actually to the east of our access road. And during that public hearing, I was really moved by the number of questions and answers and statements that came from all those who braved the weather that evening. And there was a constant theme throughout. A number of those questions is, why are you going to locate those data centers right on virgin land on the banks of the Huron River when we have provided with them an extremely rational and reasonable alternative, that is to locate these data centers where they should have gone to begin with, on the former General Motors property. It's actually owned by the state of Michigan, only half of which is currently being utilized by the American Center for Mobility. There's not a good answer to that question because, quite frankly, there is no good answer to that question because they don't want to go there because they're U of M. Now, it's absolutely also astounding to me that after all these months that the Township Board has requested a meeting with U of M to come to this Township Civic Center. Come here and face the residents, come here and face the Township Board, take the questions and answers that our Township Board took that evening, and answer them truthfully, honestly, and factually. They still won't do that. However, they have advised they're going to have an informational meeting on January 29th. I'm not really sure what that format's going to be, but we are having our second public informational meeting on January 28th, the day before. That's due in part because of the overwhelming response the township received from those who are not able to attend the first meeting on January 14th. But I would challenge U of M to actually take the questions and answers of our residents and answer them truthfully and forthright, because I don't believe they'll do so. I don't believe that they actually are going to be accessible in terms of the Q&A, and I believe right now that they have their mindset still fixated on going to the properties located on Bridge and Textile Roads. Now, I will say that during that meeting and afterwards, we continue to do our own research. And at this point in time, the township truly needs help, not only from all of our residents, but we need the help from our elected officials at the county, state, and federal level. And by that is, the township we'll get into this later on in its meeting. But back on August 19th, 2025, the Township Board passed Resolution 25-23, and it was sent to our federal, state, and local elected officials and requested two things. One, that they publicly voice their support of the township for U of M and Los Alamos not to locate those data centers on Bridge and Textile Roads. That was action item number one. Action item number two was to request these same officials to request U of M to locate those two computational data centers on the former property of General Motors, also referred to as the Willowan Arsenal for Democracy, the ACM property. That resolution was sent to every elected official listed in the resolution, and as of today, the only public official who has voiced their support to not locate on that corner, that Bridge and Textile Road, 110 megawatt substation with two data centers, has been State Representative Jimmy Wilson Jr. We're at a point, this is an impasse that you reach over a period of time. We truly need to know where our federal, state, and elected officials at the county level as well, where they stand in regards to this issue. Over the years, I've continued to hear all the time, well, we're going to protect the environment. We're for the environment. We want to make sure that no harm comes to the environment. But yet, when you're asked a simple resolution of support to say, don't locate these data centers on 144 acres of virgin land, deeply forested, that's home to numerous creatures that roam that area, the deer, the fowl. We've also had reports of American bald eagle nests being located on that property. And we're asked right now to not go there. Don't disturb their fragile lands. You're right there in the banks of the Huron River. And you're also near the township's power plant, the hydroelectric facility. And you're also located by the Yucca water storage tank. And when we ask of you to speak up and say you truly are for the environment, and you really are for the transparency, you say nothing. You say nothing. And you leave it to this township board of 7 individuals, population of 58,000, to somehow fight this fight by itself. That's not right to this township board. The township board will continue the fight. This township board needs the help, again, of our Congress, of the state governor's office, our state elected officials, and the time has come to pick a side. Either you're going to be in supporting the township's resolution or you're not. It's been said before, I think it's worth saying again, that it was written long ago that nothing hidden will remain hidden, and nothing secret will stay secret. Everything concealed will eventually be known and brought into the open. So it's time for it to be brought into the open as of right now. August, a number of months ago, plenty of time to do your own research. Either you are for this township board's position not to locate those data centers on 144 acres of the most fragile land in our township and go to an area where, quite frankly, it was designed to go to begin with. This is this age of technology is one that I never could have foreseen coming when I was growing up. And seeing the things that are occurring at the pace they are occurring is truly at times very mind-boggling. But at the same time, you have a duty as elected officials to not only look at what's happening today, but also to protect the land uses that will determine the face of this township for years to come. There is a person that put a lot of money just recently into redoing his pizzeria, party store, gas station at the corner of Bridge and Textile Road. It's going to impact him tremendously, and he's already reached out to the township with his concerns about having a data center right across the road. At the same time, I do think that I would ask the township board to also this evening to allow the full-time officials and myself to continue to explore the professional consultants that we may need to bring on board, one of which is already I mentioned in regards to the environmental impact these data centers will have on the 144 acres. I reached out to the Washtenaw Audubon Society. There's other environmental groups. They have a wealth of information in regards to the species that inhabit the banks of the Huron River. At the same time, I'm also concerned about the history being impacted negatively by these 2 data centers from the standpoint that we know that the Native American Huron Indian tribes had sacred burial grounds along the banks of the Huron River. I believe just recently there was some discovery in the city of Ypsi on Water Street in regards to certain findings that were made that were consistent with the Huron Indians being located along the banks of the Huron River. And from what we are able to tell, there was a lot of historical information that also would be relevant to this discussion. I ask the Township Board to allow the full-time officials again to consider retaining any individual that's needed to promote and protect our resources. At this point in time, I believe we're truly at the crossroads. I mentioned that on January 14th. And we really, this is a moment for this Township Board to make its statement, to make its position known for the boards that follow, that during this time, when the task came for us to stand up, that we did so. We did not bend the knee to the University of Michigan, that we did what was right. And we did what was right to protect the future of not only the immediate area, but the township in general. Our electrical grid cannot support this continuation of these high level of energy demands being brought into the township for 2 data centers that may create 200 jobs over a 10-year period, that may possibly be remote jobs working outside the state of Michigan. And when you have the state of Michigan, it's basically invited these data centers to come by giving them a 6% sales tax exemption worth hundreds of millions of dollars. There's no reason to doubt as to why there's over 50 data center applications moving forward throughout of southeastern Michigan. So tonight, I would tell this township board that, again, I thank all of you for allowing myself to serve as your general counsel for all these years. I'm very humbled by the ability to speak on the township board's behalf. I know right now as this has consumed a lot of our time, a lot of our energy, a lot of our resources. But again, as we said before, you have to stand for something or you fall for anything. And again, I'm looking forward to the January 28th meeting and for continued updates. But at the same time, I will challenge U of M to take the questions, to face the people, not to be afraid, not to have you walk around, look at these little boards they put up, and basically hide behind the curtain that you somehow have not yet made a decision. You've had enough time to do the right thing. You won't let us participate in those negotiations with ACM. We think we know why. You won't include us on updates. When you have one 20-minute Zoom meeting, you look at us and say, what do you want? And we say, well, we'd like to have updates. And U of M's response is, well, we have none. The university moves very slowly, so quote unquote, get used to it. Well, maybe I am impatient. I can't get used to it. I think this township board should not get used to having our resolutions that were sent 6 months ago. You should not get used to being ignored. Take a position. Take a side. It's not that difficult. If you believe that these data centers should go on the corner of Bridge Road with a brand new substation of 110 watts that exceeds the energy capacity of this entire township, if that's what you believe, then own it. Stand up and say it. But if you don't be cowardly. Say you don't. Township deserves this. I can't emphasize that enough. This board deserves a straight answer from every elected official that resolution was sent to as to where you stand, because I intend on January 28th to let everyone attending that meeting know who has actually taken a side. And you can't stay on the sidelines. It's yes or no. And so it's that simple. But again, my thanks to all of you for all of your support. This has been a journey. It's not over by any means. But thank all of you for your support and for all of your input. It's helped shape my way of presenting information. Thanks for all your ideas. Thanks for all of your questions as well. Because again, nobody has all the answers. No one does. But together, I think we can be the tip of the spear right now, because a lot of communities don't always have the ability, the resources, or the commitment to lead a fight against the wealthiest university in this country, only behind some of the Ivy League schools. Same university that wasn't satisfied with getting the approvals in the past and getting their way, but also went to the MEDC to ask for another $100 million corporate welfare check at the expense of Michigan residents who right now are struggling to pay the high energy bills to heat their homes in the coldest part of the Michigan winter. There's something wrong with that picture when you can give the wealthiest university $100 million to come into this township and build 2 data centers without having the decency, and I say decency in the strongest sense of the word, to have the decency to come to this township board. The township is the host community, and not even ask us what we think of that idea, but instead you go to Ann Arbor Spark and ask for their support, located in downtown Ann Arbor. Well, if Ann Arbor Spark thinks it's such a great idea for U of M to receive $100 million to build 2 data centers, then you can build those over there in Ann Arbor. But then again, we know that won't happen because the Ann Arbor Planning Commissioner has already gone on record of stating, quote, that they will do everything they can to prevent smokestacks and data centers from coming to the city of Ann Arbor. That's their mission statement. So send them Dipsolani, because why not? So I, again, don't mean to get too excited here tonight on a cold wintry night, but at the same time, I really urge this board to not only follow up on that resolution, but to follow up with your personal phone calls to simply say, are you with us or are you not? And if you can't answer that question, then I think the answer to me is you're not. So that will conclude my report until we meet again on hopefully the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. So you're requesting that we authorize a retention of environmental impact reviews for the federal and state level, as well as our Native American historical review of that site and high target areas to help us with our defense against the textile Bridge Road site. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, I would just add that there may be other professional consultants that this board may need to retain in the days and weeks ahead. I've always kept the Township Board very informed on all the letters that I write in regards to what's going on. I would not want to handcuff the board to just those two areas, but those are two that come to mind immediately, the history as well as the environmental. And also in regards to this issue about what I believe is inverse condemnation, they have actually, I don't know how they expect people to access South Hydro Park when you're building a substation on the corner and the rest of the acreage being used for two data centers. You're going to have people trying to walk through the access road. They'll have to navigate under high tension wires, transmission lines, possibly have to be confronted by national security agents, because after all, it's going to be a top secret data center by Los Alamos. We have no idea how we're going to access that South Hydro Park because they're not telling us anything. So I just wanted to suggest that the Township Board, through the full-time officials, be at least allowed to seriously look at all professional consultants that might be all hands on deck, so to speak, with understanding that anyone that's retained would be authorized and confirmed by this Township Board at the next regular meetings that we have. But I think that it's necessary at this point in time that we need help. And we need help now because we can't wait too much longer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Winters. Trustee Rowe?
I sent an email today, and I know it was kind of like last minute, but after the last minute, I got thinking about the dam and both the water tanks and about the issue of the vibration. I think it was the gentleman here, Joe, was it, who talked about the vibration. And I just thought, that is a historic dam built by Henry Ford. I mean, I personally think the township takes a lot of pride in making sure that it's operable. It provides an alternative energy source. And then the water tanks and, how the vibration travels. And so I don't know if there's a structural engineer or someone could look at that. I think that's really, really important. And then two, if I'm not mistaken, and of course my memory's not as good as it used to be, but I believe that the river trail, there's a portage site where you pull out the canoes and the kayaks right at Bridge Road. And I think it's on the Textile Road side of the park where you come out and then to get back down into the river. And I think I put it in my notes to try when I get some time, maybe somebody else can pull out some information, but to contact the Huron River Watershed, they would know that trail, whoever that was. And then I think and this is kind of a bigger picture that I thought maybe Giovanna and John or whoever is at the township is taking care of grants and finances and stuff, to look at just the overall amount of millions of dollars of both state, county, all the grants that went in our parks, along with the millions of dollars of township taxpayers, and just look at maybe the planning department too, the map of the park system on Fort Lake, because it's all intertwined. And so when you screw up one of them, you're screwing up, the whole system. And just a look at that and the amount of money, both from the states and the feds, that have went to make, Fort Lake Park, Huron River, like this, jewel of a recreational. It's not done yet. It's not done and being developed in terms of for recreation and things. I think the last grant that we got, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the hydro grants for along Grove Road and Hydro Park, where we got, I don't know, maybe it was Lakeview, but one went the fishing and the kayaking and all that stuff. So I just think that maybe if we could put together just a list, it doesn't have to be all the grants and the monies that all related to all that, you can see the amount of time and energy and money that everybody, the feds, the state, everybody has put in to the system, and that U of M has their nerve to come over here and say, we don't care, about what you've done. So anyways, that was my thing about the parks and the grants and looking at the vibration, on the dams. I think you guys covered everything else.
So we're looking for a motion?
Yeah.
We're looking for a motion to,
So you want a motion now?
Yes.
I would move that we allow the full-time officials together with both attorneys that we've already, that are already working on this for us, to be able to retain any kind of professional services, engineers, specialists in both to look at the environmental studies, the impact on Native American peoples, the animals, the vibration, anything else that might come up, and that they would bring that back to the next board for approval, but not to be slowed down for 2 or 3 weeks while we're waiting.
that's a motion. Do we have a support?
Support.
Support Thornton. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business number 1 is the adoption of 2026 Board of Review schedule, location, and compensation.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge,
Support.
support Rowe. And these are Board of Review. It's held every year. Residents have the opportunity to appeal their taxes. And it's March 9th, 10th, and 11th. It's on different times, Tuesday, March 3rd as well. No, that's not for the public. March 3rd is just for the board members to meet. And then March 9th, 10th, and 11th, residents can come to the township. The assessing department and the Board of Review will meet and listen to your concerns and make determination on that. The rate is $125 per day per board member as well. We have a motion support. No questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2 is the approval of special land use for Creekside North Development, 6601 Tuttle Hill Road. Motion is in order?
Support.
Support.
Motion Thornton? Support? Support Eldridge? Yes. Mark?
Give me a second, I'm just waiting for the presentation to come up. Thank you. All right. Good evening, board. Good evening, members of the public. So this is a presentation for the special land use and preliminary site plan. Obviously, the motion right now is for the special land use. Both of these applications are before you tonight for the Creekside Village North development at 6601 Tuttle Hill Road. Next. So the applicant is Diverse Real Estate. This is the entity that Lombardo Homes will be looking to be the home builder here. Tonight's proposal is for 100 single lots on 54 acres. Back in August, this was 101, so right now it is at 100. Each lot has a minimum lot area of 14,000 square feet and an 80-foot lot width. The zoning district is R3, which is one family residential, and these lot area and lot widths meet the standard for the zoning district. There was a previous approval in 2001, but it never developed, so those approvals expired. As the board and the public may know, just due to the intersection of Tuttle Hill and Merritt, the developer has committed $185,000 to safety improvements along Tuttle Hill for the safety of that area with any increased traffic. So this slide just involves the process. So both applications went to Planning Commission at August 25th. The special land use was approved, however, the preliminary site plan was tabled to give the applicant time to work with staff to come up with more activated open space for the development. The applicant resubmitted in the fall, and then it went back to Planning Commission on November 25th with a revised preliminary site plan to Planning Commission that they recommended approval to the board. Tonight, both cases are being heard simultaneously, but in the future, with an approval tonight, the applicant now knows that they can build this, so they will start working on final site plan and detailed engineering drawings, and the zoning ordinance does require that approval by both Planning Commission for recommendation and also the Township Board. So this is not the first time that you will get to see it, not the last time you will get to see this. This yellow area is just the location map. It is the northeast area of Tuttle Hill and Merritt. You notice the little cutout is where the clubhouse is with the pool for the other residential neighborhoods. And I do want to point out, just as it relates to open space, the pool is at capacity. They're not willing to take on any additional residents, for membership. And so really that is not even with the proximity, it's not an amenity for this development. Slide. I do want to talk about open space. This has been discussed a while. Now, originally, when this came forward a year or two ago, there were actually a little longer than that. There were several presentations that involved more units than what is being proposed tonight, and there was a different process involved. So the developer was looking at having somewhere in the range of 120 or so units, and they were proposing a PUD, or a planned development. Tonight is not a planned development. They are meeting the zoning code. The requirement is 3.44 acres. They are coming, originally in August, they had 7.3 acres, but they had very little usable space that residents or visitors would be able to utilize. A lot of it was grass and detention ponds and the required rain gardens. The current proposal tonight has 7.73 acres with usable space that Planning Commission has felt is sufficient. I won't go through it, but I do have up here the open space requirement. This comes from our subdivision regulations because it is really meeting the code in terms of the number of units. Only if they would have a denser development that would require more open space, but this just meets the minimum requirement of our subdivision regulations. So next slide. This is the image. The blue highlighted area just shows the open space that was provided. If you look at the diagonal spot, that is part of people's backyards. That is part of the overhead wires that are existing on the site. There are easements that are there. It's really not functional anyways for house building. And, so this was, as I mentioned earlier, just not very usable. But if you go to the next slide, actually next couple of slides, actually the back one for a second. So this is the updated plan that is before you tonight. And I do want to hone in on the area in red, which is on the next slide. And this area, I put it in green, is the activated spaces. If you notice, near the cul-de-sac in the center, there is a playground area between several of the homes. There's also trails between the properties and the roads, so it makes it easier to walk around the subdivision. And then there's also a few benches that are proposed along these trails itself. Okay. The next couple slides, the applicant can speak to this, but these are the types of homes that they are providing. It is a brick veneer on the front and really vinyl siding around the building, and then they do have a little vinyl siding on the second story of the first floor. So they're different models. If you go to the next slide, these were just provided in the packet itself. The applicant can speak a little further on these. Okay. And then again, this just shows the elevations with just a little bit more detail. They do have variations for the type of buildings that they are using. So the next couple slides include the standards of approval for what the board is considering for a special land use. I will go through these. There's only 6 of them. The site plan has 15, which is a lot. But number 1, special land use. Will it be harmonious in accordance with the objectives, intent, and purpose of this ordinance? 2, is it compatible with the natural environment and existing and future land uses in the vicinity? 3, will it be compatible with the township's master plan? 4, will it be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage ways and structures, and refuse disposal? 5, will it not be detrimental to hazardous or disturbing to existing or future neighboring uses, persons, property, or public welfare? And lastly, will not create any additional requirements at public cost for public facilities and services that will be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. The township's planning consultant found for the most part, the special use standards have been met. But the applicant should provide functional and usable open space and shall confirm to the satisfaction for this for the Planning Commission and Township Board that the traffic can be mitigated. Next slide. Now, there are 15 land use standards for site plan, standards of approval. This is very, very comprehensive. There is a detailed report within your staff report. I'm not going to go through each individual one, but I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have on those standards for review and how it applies to this development. So lastly, we have the recommendations for the special land use. Planning Commission recommended approval at the August meeting during public hearing, 5-0. With 3 conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall address all outstanding comments for reviewing agencies prior to final site plan approval. The applicant shall revise all plan sheets to reflect the results of this evening's discussion. And that is a standard condition. 2, the applicant shall obtain all applicable internal and outside agency permits prior to construction. And 3, the applicant shall address the lack of usable open space in the final site plan. Now, this was from August. They have addressed this as part of the preliminary site plan. And if you go to the next slide, Planning Commission then recommended approval 6-0 for the preliminary site plan to the Township Board at the November 25th meeting with the following 5 conditions. The proposed functional open space is sufficient to serve the proposed residential development. The proposed vinyl siding material is an appropriate building material. Number 3, the agreed upon $185,000 traffic mitigation contributions shall be memorialized within an upcoming development agreement, and we'll do that at the final site plan. The applicant, number 4, the applicant shall address all outstanding comments from review agencies for the final site plan review by Planning Commission and the Township Board, and revise all plan sheets to reflect the results of this evening's discussion. And number 5, the applicant shall obtain all applicable internal and outside agency permits prior to construction. We do have motions up here. I don't necessarily need to go through that, but we'd be happy to bring any up that would help. The applicant is here. They have a small presentation they'd like to address the board, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have as well. So thank you.
Mark, did you give your name for the record?
Oh, absolutely. So my name is Mark Gander, Planning Director for Ypsilanti Township. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions of Mark? Or do you want to wait for the presentation?
I have a general question.
Okay.
Okay, I know
Trustee Rowe?
This is the first time that we've seen a development since I've been back, and I'm kind of confused about, and I know lots of things change, like why does a subdivision approval need a special land use?
Okay.
We never used to do that, right?
Absolutely.
So help me.
I'd be happy to. So under the new ordinance that was adopted in 2022, for the R3 district and for R3, R4, and R5, it requires a special land use from the Township Board. Now, if this site condominium was coming forward in an R1 or R2 district, that does not require special land use. It's only for R3, R4, and R5. If they were coming forward with a typical subdivision that wasn't a site condo, that also would not require a special land use.
Because it's a site condo under the new ordinance.
Correct.
Special land uses.
Correct.
And then I just missed, well, this is for the developer. Why didn't he go PD? But
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
Any other questions for Mark before
I have just a couple.
Treasurer Elders?
Mark, can you better explain to me quickly, in the second paragraph under open space of your letter, you mentioned that one of the requirements, if I'm reading it right, is 3.44 acres of open space?
Correct.
But the very next sentence mentions that they're only providing 2.25. And so that's question 1, why the variance there? And then in the Planning Commission recommendation notes, number 1, it simply says the proposed functional open space is sufficient. Does it meet our standards or does it not? And why would we use the word sufficient?
So let me clarify the 2 things. They are required 3.44 acres for this development. They are providing in excess of 7 acres for the overall development. The point of the 2.24 or 2.25 acres is the area from the one slide that is activated. So that is the area that they have the playground, that is the area that they have the walkways, the benches. It is part of the overall development. When you're looking at residential developments and open space, it's very unlikely that 100% of the open space is activated, but they're meeting that requirement that they're providing the area that counts. Now, the stormwater ponds and the rain gardens don't count towards that requirement. It's looking at the overall acreage that is not part of those drainage basins per se.
And out of that 7.73, is any of that space sitting on those underground wires or lines, those transmission lines that go through, and are those being counted as open space even though they're not buildable?
Yep. Could you bring up my presentation real quick? I'd love to just confirm that with that slide. Picture tells 1,000 words.
I had the same question about
Go to the
7.7 acres, but it goes on,
Next
it's
one.
not clear. Goes on to say, it makes it sound like the only thing that's really open space is the 2 point.
Correct, that's why I had a question.
But it sounds like Mark's saying that's true, but you can also add something else. But
Can you go to the previous slide? There we go. So a portion, but not all of the, if you look at that diagonal area up there, a portion, but not all of that diagonal area is counting towards the 7.78 acres. So that, I just wanted to kind of highlight that there. Some of that area is, in this new development, is part of people's personal property. You know, there's an easement for the utility lines, but it's now on private property and not part of like an HOA.
what are you referring to as diagonal?
I wish I had a laser pointer, I'm sorry. So if you look at the, and let me.
Well, you could go
walk
right
over
here.
Right here
Oh, okay.
to right here is where the,
That's the line, right?
yeah, that's where the power lines and the utilities.
And they're counting that in the 2.25 or the
That
7?
is not counted in the 2.25, with the exception of what's in the red box there, because they have walking trails there.
And so even the fact that it's not buildable, that can be counted as open space?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll wait
Can I
for,
talk to this? Can I make a comment?
in a moment, we're going to have a presentation by the
It's
developer.
about these slides, okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Aubrey Marib, and with me tonight is Greg Benningland, and we are here representing Lombardo Homes. For any of you, sorry, you can go to the next slide, please. Not with us tonight are our two lead engineers on the project, Matt Bush and Kyler Sheeran from Atwell. Next slide, please. For any of you who are not familiar with Lombardo Homes, it started by Cosmo and Antoinette Lombardo in 1961 with one single-family home. It's still owned by their four children, and we have grown to build 450 single-family homes in Michigan annually and 150 single-family homes in St. Louis per year, as well as approximately 100 apartment units. Next slide, please. So this slide shows just kind of how all of the past and future projects that Lombardo has in the township. And so as you can see, we've been here for quite a while. We've done a lot of projects here, and we intend to continue to do many more. So at this time, I would just like to call up Greg because, yeah, you can go to the next one. He has a little bit more history on the Creekside PUD since he's been with Lombardo for 25 years or so. So I'm going to let him step in.
Good evening, everybody. As some of you know, there's a long history with this corner, with the Creekside overall community. Pulte originally started it, did an overall PUD. It included Creekside Village South, Creekside Village East, Creekside Village North, and Creekside Village West. Originally, the Recreation Authority was going to use Creekside Village East and Creekside Village West. On the right side of the screen, you'll see the kind of black and white inset that says Original Creekside Village East, the overall site plan. The northern portion of that, which is directly to the right of what we're talking about tonight, was originally 157 lots, and they were going to be 60 by 140. That was 157 lots. That never came to be. We had discussions several years ago. We were going to do a PUD. We talked about different things. At the time, the economy was slowing. Some other things in the company were happening. So we backed away from that, and now we're back. Karen, you had a question. I think you were going to ask us why we didn't do a PUD. The PUD is a much more cumbersome process. We just wanted to come in basically with straight zoning. I guess the addition of that is the $185,000 that we've committed for the traffic improvements. You didn't say Anthony like you normally did when we showed his picture up there, but just a short story. Originally, when we were back here in 2014, whenever it was, talking about the PUD, at that point we were committing $160,000 towards the traffic improvements. That was going to be part of the PUD. That never happened. When Anthony heard we were coming back and heard about the tragedy that occurred, he had said, commit that money. We were going to do it before, so we're still doing it. So even though this isn't a PUD, we wanted to still commit those funds. So Lombardo took over several of the projects, acquired several of the projects from Pulte back in 2009, and that included several vacant lots in Creekside Village East. If you remember, those are 60-foot platted lots. We wanted to offer 3-car garages. So we took about, I think it was about 18 of the 60-foot lots. We split them in half and made adjacent 90-foot lots. That's why the original density of 93 wound up being around 70, is because we eliminated several lots to make larger home sites to offer the 3-car garages. Then Creekside Village South, we acquired about 50 vacant lots that had been developed. We acquired about 50 vacant lots and sold and built those. Manors at Creekside Village was originally going to be part of Creekside Village South. We broke that into a separate condominium. Again, for those of you who were here back then, it was very important to you that we continued the ranch product there. So we restricted that to a ranch community. So Creekside Village South and Manors at Creekside Village are exclusively ranch product. Then Creekside Village West is 100% Pulte. We did not acquire any lots. We didn't do any building there. That was 100% Pulte. And then Creekside Farms, we acquired from Pulte. And then Creekside Village North, Pulte had actually sold that to the Canzanos. We acquired it from them. So the long version of the history of it is kind of that for some of you who may not have been around back then.
So Mark already went over this, but this project is at the northeast corner of Tuttle Hill and Merritt Road. It's 54.7 acres. Zoning is R3. We are proposing 100 lots, which we will intend to build in 2 phases. And as we mentioned, even though you've seen this maybe before as a PUD, this is just a straight zoning compliant plan, and we do meet all this ordinance compliance. So the public sanitary sewer is designed as an extension off of the existing stubs from Tuttle Hill and Merritt Roads. The public water will be looped through the development, connected to the existing stubs from Tuttle Hill and Merritt, and extended to the existing Lakewood Estates condominium to the north. Stormwater management is facilitated by 2 on-site detention basins and 5 infiltration basins. Private roads in the community with sidewalks on both sides, 5 feet. We provide 10-foot wide bike path along both Merritt and Tuttle Hill, 3 access points, Tuttle Hill, Merritt, and Lakewood Estates. And despite the traffic impact study indicating that there's no need for additional turn lanes or traffic signal improvements at that intersection, as Greg mentioned, we have committed to providing some funding for that. So just some of the positive community impacts. It's going to provide 100 new single-family homes. It's going to support infrastructure improvements. We preserve open space and stormwater management. One thing that I will mention in working with Mark on kind of improving that open space, we're looking at rolling out kind of a new, fully accessible, so not just ADA compliant, but an actual park that would be accessible for children and individuals of all abilities. And I think most likely this will be our first community that we are doing that in. So you'll see that when we come back to you for final site plan approval, but I'm confident that it's gonna be something that you guys are really happy with. And lastly, obviously, new development will expand the tax base to support the township and the school district. These just show our typical product for our single family residential. This is similar to what is in that same surrounding area. We have a number of different elevations, so they do vary, and obviously the market is going to dictate the price of the homes, but at this time we estimate that they will start in the low 400 range. I believe that is it, so if you guys have any questions, I am happy to entertain them.
At this time, are there questions? I know we have one resident that would like to ask a question.
Any questions? Oh, okay.
Is that all right?
Just depends on
Is it okay to talk now?
Yes.
Okay. If we can bring up Mark's slides again, do you mind?
Yep.
Yeah, because a lot of my information's off his.
Sir, and your name is?
Rodney Fry. I live at 6806 Poplar Drive here in Ypsilanti.
The microphone is voice activated, so you have to get kind of close to the actual
close,
microphone.
okay.
Pull it up.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
On Mark's slides, there's a slide that talks about open space. I think it was before, keep going back, right there, open space. If you look under subdivision regulations, section 4.06 for open space, you can see right under that, that open space is supposed to be considered a park, required park area. So that means that's supposed to be required usable space. When you calculate that out, that usable space is supposed to be 3.44 acres, like Mark has in his letter. But Mark misspeaks in his letter by a little bit by saying just generally open space, but it's supposed to be park area usable space. If you look at Mark's letter again, I don't know if that's there, Mark quotes that they're providing only 2.25 acres of usable space. So they're not meeting the township ordinance, the requirements of having usable space.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, the outside consultant that the township's been using always mentions in all the reports, like he mentioned earlier, they still are asking for more open, usable space. So there's not enough usable space, and that doesn't meet the township requirements.
Thank you. Questions from board members?
I had-
Trustee Rowe?
I just want to get clear on that. Stan brought it up, and then we talked about it, and now Rodney, is that your name, Rodney?
Yes,
You just brought it up. So there's short actually 1.19 acres of actual usable, if you don't include
Yes.
those required the gas lines and stuff, right? Because it says that you're supposed to have 3.44 and they have 2.25, correct?
Correct, and I would like to confirm the subdivision regulations that our planning consultant put together.
I think he said they were short too. in the letter.
I got them right here.
That's okay. Thank you, though. While Mark is looking that up, I did want, so this is a special land use part, and then the preliminary site plan would be the next action.
That is correct.
And are there rain gardens in this? Yes, okay. That's one question I had. And the second one was, we've talked about this before, but we have not had a subdivision development in a very long time. So, but we, at that time, and I remember speaking to you about it, is to actually have a 210 plug for hybrid vehicles, electric vehicles, and it's not required at the state level. We've been trying to get it. I don't know why we can't, but if we could just put that when you're building the house, it's much more cost effective and not a lot more money for the developer to run
EV.
that wire versus,
Should I address you? Absolutely.
sure.
Sure. I can address it afterwards.
So, to answer your second question first, we provide a dedicated circuit to the garage for EV charging stations. We can't actually provide the charging because we don't know Tesla, Ford, whatever. But we do provide the dedicated service to the garage so that if somebody wants to have it, they don't have to run something all the way back to their circuit box. The wiring is already there.
To what
Where
line?
does it,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. Where does it end? Where does it come out at?
It comes to a box in the garage,
So
and
they-
then it's got a plate on it, so it complies with electrical code, right? We don't want
Right.
just the wires out there.
Right.
But we do have a dedicated circuit from the circuit panel to the garage.
Separate.
It terminates in the garage for that.
Okay,
Great.
So,
thank you.
okay.
For that. And then the rain gardens was one of, I didn't know how many, or,
5.
so you do.
We have 5 rain gardens.
Okay, and that will be maintained by the HOA, is that correct?
That's correct. In the bylaws of the association, there will be the obligation for them to preserve and maintain the rain gardens.
So is that also part of the Water Resource Commission? So it'll be, right, the Water Resource, they used to call it the Drain Commission approval,
Yep.
and now they call it the Water Resource Commission
Yep,
approval.
they have infiltration requirements, and rain gardens are one way to help comply with those infiltration requirements.
Okay, so will it be turned over to them?
The,
The rain gardens and the drains, and in case the association fails to maintain it, like I'm in Tremont, which is right near. So if we fail to maintain as association, then the Water Resource Commission comes in, does the work, and they levy an assessment on us. And I'm assuming that's the same, and maybe that's more for detail or final. I don't-
no, to answer your question, the entire site will be under a special assessment district through the drain office, the Water Resource Commission, right?
Okay.
Old habits. And you're exactly right. If the association fails to maintain those, then the Water Resource Commission can come in and do whatever actions are necessary, and then they can specially assess the association to recover their fees.
That is excellent. And then the final point, which is what I brought up years ago too, is the siding. So you don't see a sea of siding that's all the same color, especially from like the roads, because oftentimes the houses would back up and you could just see all siding that, and there's different types of siding, there's different colors of siding, so it just doesn't look like a cookie cutter.
Yep.
Okay.
We have a self-imposed monotony rule, which says you cannot have the same elevation next to each other, nor can you have the same brick color next to each other, nor can you have the same siding color next to each other, or directly across the street.
Okay.
And that's to prevent exactly what you're concerned with.
All right, thank you very much. And I do know that providing walkable space is recreation to a lot of people in my development, which is older. A lot of people walk around, and having non-motorized pathways and interconnectivity is really important. And it's the #1 issue at our Parks and Recreation Master Plan and our Master Plan for Planning and Zoning is people want the ability to be able to walk throughout the community. So
Right.
I recognize that.
Can I address the open space issue a little bit further?
Sure.
Could you go to his first of the 2 open space, the next slide, I think it is? No, that one right there. So the blue area represents what we're calculating as, I think it was 7.73 acres of open space. Technically, we're required to provide 3.44 acres. I think those are the 2 numbers. The red box that's outlined, you came up with 2-point-some acres, whatever that is. We had discussions with the planning consultant. Just because there's not a sidewalk in that other area, and just because there's not a play center, doesn't mean people aren't able to walk through the grass on the other areas. Those other areas will be mowed, they will be maintained. So is it 100% usable open space? No. I would argue it's somewhat open space. So, and I think that was the kind of the feeling of the Planning Commission, and maybe why the planning consultant didn't make a bigger issue out of it, is we're providing more than 2 times the required open space. Technically, are we calculating the 3.44 acres? Maybe not. But if you take the acreage within the red box, as well as, I guess I'll say, give us credit for some of the other areas that people are certainly able to walk through. There won't be a paved hard surface pathway like we show in the other areas, but there's no reason people can't walk through them and enjoy them, walk their dog, whatever. So that's kind of the open space rationale that we had to comply with the ordinance requirements.
There is a difference between.
Okay, just a minute, sir, please. Mark?
So the one thing I wanted to clarify from our subdivision regulations, and this is 4.06, and it's section 2, it asks, and I think Mr. Fry is referencing it, it is that all open space areas within subdivisions shall achieve open space that is of usable size as well as the best layout possible to provide a functional open space system. And then in order to accomplish it, the design is required, of private park areas and all other open space areas shall follow the guidelines. And there's nothing specific in these guidelines that's saying that all the usable space or all the requirements need to be activated, but it really is up to Planning Commission and then tonight the board to really determine is the activated space and the overall open space of usable size and the best layout possible.
Thank you. Yes, sir?
If you bring up the slide before this one
Can you
again.
give your name again, please? I'm sorry.
No problem. Rodney Fry, 6806 Poplar Drive, Ypsilanti, Michigan. The slide before this one, it talks about open space. Right there, subdivision regulation sections 4.06 open space. It says required park area. And in that division, it tells you how to calculate the required space. It says all residential subdivisions shall provide an active recreation area which shall contain a common park area equal in size to 1,500 square feet of each lot in the subdivision. So there is a requirement in the requirements right there. And that comes out to, when you do 1,500 square feet times 100 homes, 150,000 square feet comes out to 3.44 acres. So that states there's supposed to be 3.44 acres of usable park area. And what we presented to tonight, they're only providing 2.25 of usable space. There's a difference between when they talk about open space and usable space. You hear these terms go back and forth, but they are 100% different from one another.
Thank you.
Yes.
Trustee Rowe?
Yeah, this is about to the open space. Back to the red one, the one with the red square. Yeah. In there, it shows those two rain gardens here, north and south. I don't know what directions are, but anyways, one's up, one's down. And it says open space, and those lines, are those like walking paths that go behind the houses and then down that open space?
Yeah, within that green area, those double lines are a walking path.
Okay. And then I was just wondering, are the rain gardens there because that's the way the water has to flow? Or could you make more usable space if you were able to combine them and then have like a more of an open field? Is one idea. And two is, where is this super ADA accessible structure gonna go? Is that over there with these little circle thing?
So the playground area with the ADA that the applicant mentioned.
Is that
right
circle?
here in the
Okay.
playground area,
Okay,
correct.
yeah. So that was just a thing about because you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, which is great, rain gardens, but I didn't know if there was a way to move the water into one and make more open space on one. A lot of times kids just want a place to kick around a soccer ball, just a flat space. And I didn't know if that's possible, if those rain gardens are there engineered to handle some water or something.
If it's okay, can I let the applicant address that?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
absolutely.
So again, going back to the open space, I think if we got 50% credit for the area outside the red box, I think we would more than come up with that. We could do that calculation as part of a contingent approval or something like that. I think we could do that.
It's an acre that you need, acre 1.19 to be strictly.
Right.
Now, what you're saying is you could do that.
I think
You'll figure it
easily,
out.
there's a lot of areas.
All right.
The diagonal area that Mark pointed out earlier that starts north of lot 1, like in the upper left corner,
Mm-hmm.
that diagonal area. Can you go to the next one if you would, please? Yes, that one. So that blue area, that is the Wolverine gas pipeline. Where's
that at? I'm sorry.
The Wolverine gas
Okay.
pipeline is here, down through there. and then continues, obviously, both directions. That doesn't have overhead lines, it's only underground. We have the ability, we can't put recreational, amenities, things like that, but it's still a usable area. Our residents can walk back there, they can walk their dogs back there, they can go back there, whatever. So again, we calculated just within the red box, if we took some of those other areas, the same with these other areas here, there's no reason that folks can't go strolling through there and enjoy a walk with their dog or just a walk or whatever. And like I say, if we even assume 50% credit for that area as usable, we're clearly above that. And so I think we could do that calculation outside of this, and like I say, if it was something that the board was comfortable doing a contingent approval, because we have to come back for final site plan
Right.
anyway,
Yeah,
right?
the detailed site plan will come,
Yeah, so
final will come back to us.
so we could do that. As Aubrey mentioned earlier, this is going to be our first park or our first playground of this nature. We're really proud of it. We're proud to be introducing it here. When we come back for final site plan, we'll actually have details of that, renderings, things like that. As far as, Karen, you had a question on the location of the rain gardens. Unfortunately, those are driven by the site engineering, so there's very, very little flexibility with locating those or the sizes of them. And then all the double lines that Mark referred to as walkways, those are all hard surface. They'll be, because they're 5 foot wide, they'll be concrete. We've learned a long time ago that doing a wood chip pathway is just wasting money. It just doesn't hold up. So all those would be 5 foot wide pathways. And they're 5 foot wide concrete.
Here's a gentleman.
Jeremy Haley, Township resident. 3 things real quick. The $185,000 improvement to the intersection. After it's improved, who maintains that? Who pays for them to maintain that? Who pays to repair that? It doesn't come out of the $185,000 that they just gave. Well, that's right, it comes out of the residents of the township. Another thing, the price of the homes is $400,000, right? What's the average annual income of the township residents? Not in line with the price of the homes. Oh, that's right, we're gonna get a bunch of people who are renting at $4,000 a month from Ann Arbor to come and buy the homes. Last thing, if you're gonna build it and you wanna build more usable area, you need to get the 2 houses on the corners there that have the crappy triangle backyards out of there. Those suck. Who wants to have a crappy triangle backyard around this corner there at the end of the blue thing tip? It goes to a point triangle. Who wants to live in a triangle backyard? I don't. You got 2 of them. You get rid of those, you can actually add more better rain gardens in those 2 areas and add more access to the innards. And it would actually create more functional, usable area.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Trustee Newman? Speak into the microphone, please, sir.
Is there I know you mentioned usable space being created with a gas pipe. Is there concern that someday the pipe may need maintenance or may burst walking over it? I don't know if that was worded correctly, but just walking over a gas pipe just gives me concern.
Yeah, they're steel gas mains or transmission mains. They're 5-6 feet in the ground. They do periodic maintenance of them. That's why we can't build anything on them other than we can do the road crossing, but that's about it. They run not just through the township, but they run pretty much everywhere. I can't say there's never going to be an issue, but there's a lot of safety and redundancy built into the integrity of them.
And that would be considered usable space as a walking path?
On the top, on the surface of it, yes. And that's why I mentioned earlier, we can't put a structure on top of it. We can't put a playground on top of it, things like that. But as far as to go back there and just stroll around or walk your dog or whatever, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Rowe?
It's just being nosy or wanting to know. What, the ones that's next to the, where you're gonna build, is it Majestic Lakes? What's it called? Do you know?
Is it what?
Majestic Lakes, that's like back towards Textile.
Can you go back to one of our overall slides?
And I was just wondering the size of those lots versus yours, because 80 is pretty big, right?
Yes.
Do you have another 80-foot lot subdivision here?
We do not. What we have
thought.
is Creekside Village East, as I mentioned earlier.
Uh-huh.
We took the 60-foot lots and split, that one works. We took the 60-foot lots and split those and made 290s. And that way,
But not in all of them.
no, because there were houses,
You did
there were some
three-
existing houses, so we weren't
That's for the
able to do.
garages, right?
Right, and that was to allow us to do 3-car garages. With the 80-foot lots here, we are able to offer either a 4-foot garage extension or a full 3rd-car garage.
So you just wanted the 80-foot because that's where the market's at?
Well, your ordinance,
Is it requires the 80-foot?
yeah.
Oh, man,
R3? I don't know.
sorry.
It works.
I wish it was smaller.
Yeah.
Then it'd be cheaper.
Just, may I address the gentleman's couple questions they had? As far as the
You
contribution.
can address here.
Yeah, as far as the contribution that we're making, I don't think it's any secret, the Township and the Road Commission have been talking for a long time on improvements to Merritt and Tuttle Hill intersection. I don't know what the status of that is. We're simply making a contribution to the Township that the Township can then use at some point for those intersection improvements. Because those roads are under the jurisdiction of the Road Commission, future maintenance, future repairs, all that stuff is their responsibility. And then as far as the price point of the homes, we, trust me, we've done a lot of market research to know that we are comfortable that we'll be able to sell these homes. We don't sell to investors that want to rent them. These will be actual home buyers. This market will be a move-up home buyer. It will be some first-time home buyers. Those first-time home buyers will be both people working, probably both in a professional capacity. More than likely, it'll be people who have equity in an existing home and are moving up to probably a second home.
All right. Trustee Rowe?
Some of the facades on these pictures show, looks like some kind of stone or brick frontage, and some don't. So is that like an option you purchase?
Yeah, with all of our elevations, we have, and that's a good slide right there, thank you. We have different standard plans, similar to the auto companies, sell a certain model, but then there's different versions of that model you can get. We do the same thing. We have a base model, and then we have different enhanced models. Some of them, like the lower right corner, might have stone at the bottom, and it would be more of a farmhouse elevation, things like that. But yeah, there's a multitude of different elevations.
And just one final question, if I may. Square footage ranges, from the smallest to the largest.
Square footage, the ranches, which will probably only comprise 5 to 10%. The ranches will be somewhere around 18 to 2,000 square feet. The colonials, the 2 stories, which will be the bulk of the purchases or of the sales, will be in the low 2,000s to a little over 3,000, maybe 3,200 square feet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Clerk Swanson?
I have a question. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you to the residents for speaking up. I don't know in my mind if the discrepancy between the numbers that everybody's explaining, I do see in the language that the resident talks about that it's got to be parkland. So I do have some reservations right now with that being 100% clear. So if suggestion is to, on contingency so that that can be assessed and worked out, I'm leaning towards that right now just because I don't feel like it's been clearly answered.
Yeah, I agree. There's could be some more definitive calculations provided, and that's what I was suggesting if it was agreeable to the board. Maybe a approval contingent on us confirming that prior to coming back for final site plans or as part of that process.
And just to add to that, if you wanted procedurally to add a condition that it met the 3.4 acre requirement, that 44 acres was usable or activated in such a way that there were amenities provided, that is an option that the board has tonight, is just to add that condition onto either the special land use or the preliminary site plan.
Trustee Thornton?
So my question was, actually, you kind of answered it, because I was going to ask if you guys could fix those numbers and then bring it back to us, because I don't feel comfortable either.
Certainly, and we certainly understand. Our concern is, and the reason we're requesting maybe it be a contingent, it allows us to move forward. We're hoping to get a pre-construction meeting in June so that we can break ground. If we're tabled for a meeting to come back, it just delays that process further. So as Mark mentioned, maybe it's a condition of your approval that we do demonstrate that we have compliance with those numbers, that we can quantify those numbers. That would be certainly helpful on our end.
Madam Supervisor, just add an amendment at this time.
Pardon me?
We already have an motion, so can I add amendment? Just make
Yes.
an amendment that the approval for the special land use for Creekside North Development at 6601 Tuttle Hill Road be contingent upon bringing back to the final site plan an additional 1.19 acres of usable open space.
That's a friendly amendment. The motion was made by
Support.
Eldridge, Thornton and Eldridge, yes. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know about the comments I made. I think you've addressed them, but I just wanted to make sure they're in the record with the minutes, that those are some of the things that was
The EV.
requested. But it's not a PD, so.
No, the EV is that,
Yeah.
that's what.
Yeah, well, it was the EV, yeah, and the citing, that it not, which he said, the gentleman said he was going to address, but I just want to make sure it's addressed by the final site plan.
Right.
And this is the first time I've ever done a special land use on,
You want me to add those, Brenda?
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate place to do it, or is it the site plan? That's where I was getting confused.
We're comfortable if you would like to add a condition that we provide the EV dedicated circuit to the garage. As I mentioned earlier, we're very comfortable if you want to add that as a condition. We're also comfortable if you want to require our bylaws to include what we call our monotony rule, which, like I say, requires no two elevations adjacent to each other, no two brick colors adjacent to each other, no two siding colors adjacent to each other, or the home directly across the street. We're very fine having that added as a condition as well, which Mr. Winters
Would that be at the special land use, or would that be at the site plan? That's, I'm getting just a little bit.
Those two items probably are preferred to have at the special land use. If you do it there, it'll all automatically apply to the site plans.
So,
You want me to add that? Well, if that's all right with everybody, we'll just add that to the already amendment, that the EV circuits be provided to each one of the garages,
and the monotony.
and the monotony rule be added to the bylaws regarding siding, and I guess that's it.
Okay. So we have a motion and support to approve the special land use for Creekside North Development, 6601 Tuttle Hill Road, with the conditions that were listed in the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 is to approve preliminary site plan for Creekside North Development, 6601 Tuttle Hill Road.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge,
Support.
support Rowe. Haven't we addressed it? I'm so sorry, this is new for me as well, and to have,
So this is the same proposal and development, but this is the formal site plan, preliminary site plan. We've addressed it. This is where a site plan is a process that they have to follow those 15 standards. Staff's review and the consultant's review says they've met those standards. There are 5 conditions. The Planning Commission recommended approval to the board tonight. And anything that was discussed as part of the special land use motion automatically carries through. You don't need to add it as part of the preliminary site plan. But this formally approves the preliminary site plan.
Do we have a site plan?
The applications were combined into one, so it's part of the special land use is the formal
That
application.
map that we have is a site plan?
Yep, correct.
All new.
Yes, it is. Do, so is the site, it's a stage 1 site plan, and stage 2 will come,
Yep.
am I using it? It's a site condo, so there's 2 approvals at the Planning Commission and at the Township Board.
Correct.
So the applicant has heard the issues here. Do we need to read anything into the record? Or because we stated it at the special land use, will that transfer over?
Really, the most important thing is having the motion and then the 5 conditions, or if there are any additional conditions that the board would like to add, that is the most important thing tonight for the preliminary site plan.
So in the Planning Commission recommendation, it had the approval contingent upon proposed functional open space is sufficient to serve the proposed residential development. The
You could-
proposed vinyl siding material is an appropriate building material. The agreed upon $185,000 traffic mitigation contribution shall be memorialized in a development agreement. And the applicant will address outstanding comments from review agencies prior to final plan approval by the Planning Commission and the Township Board, and they will obtain all applicable internal and outside agency permits prior to construction. So if we can make that as a friendly amendment, Eldridge and Rowe?
Yes.
Including your EV when you go that? Or is
That was in
we don't
the,
need to do that?
we don't need to do that.
Just the open space, yep.
Do we need to do the open space here?
I would, because if you look at number 1, the proposed functional open space is sufficient, it's probably good just to align that with what you guys passed
An additional
for the special land
1.9,
use.
right?
That is a friendly amendment, correct?
You could just include it in your original motion, since you made it, or you're reading it.
Yes.
So we're gonna add, including the 1.19 additional usable open space. So moved.
Are we clear on the motion?
Is everything
Yes.
that you read
Yes.
and what I just
Plus
said?
the 1.19 additional usable open space. All right, we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is our
Welcome
first
back.
development in many, many years, so we look forward to it. Number 4 is accept proposal from Home of New Vision for an opioid prevention program in the amount of $24,000, which is budgeted.
So moved.
Support.
Motion Rowe, support Eldridge. There's a report in your packet. We also have Lori, who is here, and the representative of Home of New Vision. If you have any questions for, they do prevention and education supplies, Narcan distribution, monthly community building events, youth workshops, outreach and marketing, recovery, coaching, and supervision for Ypsilanti Township. First year was a pilot. Like many things, we pilot before we actually implement, and it's, from the report, it's been very successful, and we thank you for all you're doing to try to help with this epidemic in our community and surrounding communities. Is there any questions? We have a motion support. Yes, Trustee Thornton?
So I actually went to one of your youth workshops, and it was amazing. So thank you so much.
We have a motion support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 5 is approval of the first contract amendment with Washtenaw County to receive grant funds in the amount of $200,000 for the 2026 Senior Center Operations or Services. The funds are allocated from the county older adult millage.
Support.
Motion Eldridge, support Rowe. Are there any questions on this? There was a senior adult millage that was approved. In Washtenaw County, we get $200,000 a year because we have our own community center for seniors. Some of the things that was used in 2025 was about $171,000 so far. It was cover operations for the recreation staff, seat belts for 14-passenger minibus, pool tables for activity room, new step machines, treadmill, holiday luncheon expense, and a plan for the audio-visual upgrade. So each year, we're going to have to report to the county what we expended the funds on, but that's what they've done so far. We have a motion support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Plans for this year's fund? I'm sorry, are there plans for this year's funds?
Well, they're,
Yeah. Or-
say,
Okay, well, all right, I'll leave it alone. You can tell us later.
yeah, we'll update the board as
That's
soon
fine,
as
no
we know what
problem.
they are. I know
Yeah,
that
no
they've
problem.
identified them.
That's okay.
We need to address the first 200,000 before we
Yep.
get to the next 200,000.
Thank you.
But we will get an update on that. Number 6 is request to approve Spicer Group for grant assistance services to resubmit the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources for the 2026 application window for $12,600, which is budgeted.
So move.
Motion Rowe,
Support Thornton.
support Thornton. Mr. Hines?
Good evening, John Hines, Municipal Service Director. I come before you with a request to approve Spicer Group for grant assistance for the resubmission of the 2026 Land and Water Conservation Grant with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. This does come after the Township, with Arnett Consulting, submitted the application for 2025. We unfortunately were not recommended for award due to insufficient reporting of the SHPO clearance. It also, as part of that process, there were some areas of our initial application that the MDNR wanted to focus on if we were to resubmit, and with our supplemental submission in October of last year. The reason why I'm asking to approve Spicer Group for this is due to our recent history with their firm for MDNR grants. They were the prime professional for both the 2020 Clubview Community Center Park project and 2021 Clubview Park project with the MDNR for the Land and Water Conservation Fund grants. And they were also assisting the Township and Arnett Consulting in October of last year to provide the supplemental information at that time. For the funds that are being requested for their assistance, they will help us resubmit the application as mentioned, but that includes field inspection, concept plan, preliminary estimate, and of course, working with Rescom, which is a local Michigan company for the SHPO clearance. And just to be clear, because I used the acronym but did not put what it was, SHPO is the compliance to the process of adhering to federal and state historic preservation laws, which is primarily Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. It is something that funded grants have to do to make sure that we are not disturbing preserved lands. The reason why it was insufficient in the 2025 application is because we also have to do a NEPA report, which is for the National Environment Protection Agency. And as part of that, we thought that it was sufficient, but again, learned unfortunately after the fact, and we were not able to submit anything further after that October 30th deadline. Their price is a little higher than it might have been prior, and that is because in the discussion with learning with what else we need to do, which is include the pathway down from the parking lot to make it ADA accessible, and also the subsequent boardwalk that goes to the north of the primary boardwalk, which currently is underwater when it rains very heavily, is something that our team has battled for many years. But we have to include those two sections, which were not previously included, as well as update the plan that was originally done in the winter about this time of 2023. With 3 years have gone past, we did estimates last year of what it should be with inflation. But again, due to adding those two sites and 3 years worth of inflation and product price changes, they're going to completely do a new engineer's estimate, so the township board has a complete idea of what that cost might be for this project. As well as working with Spicer Group for this application as ResCom for the SHPO clearance, we have submitted this to Jeff Irwin and Jimmy Wilson's office for hopefully state funding. So that could be potential as well. If this is what would be approved, we would start working with Spicers as soon as this week. They would come on site to do a walk of North Bay Park, and we would have the goal of submitting by the April 1st deadline. And this agreement would take us to, again, that supplemental deadline of October 1st, depending on the DNR's review after the initial submission.
Questions or comment? Trustee Rowe.
I know that when you submit, your deadline is April, right? Is it April? But then there's always a time period before, so there's always a time period before that where there used to be where you could know, like, if you weren't sufficient. Were we told that on that SHPO, whatever that is, it's something new? And we didn't have enough time to address it before, is it October the final?
Yeah, so the initial submission date's April 1st, and the supplemental is October 1st.
Yeah.
We were told, we did discuss and have meetings with the grant coordinator from the MDNR. We were working with the firm at the time that, again, then we brought on Spicer, and we made sure to get the NEPA clearance, again, thinking that it was all encompassing, and now we know that it was not. So unfortunately, it was a learning curve, and I'm extremely disappointed that that clarification was not made known to us till after that supplemental date.
Because a lot of times, I don't know, I know our experience in the past was if you get a grant in, if you're denied, no, not because you weren't sufficient, but just because they spent it somewhere else, and kind of move up on the totem pole for the next time around. At least that's what we always thought, but it's true, I have no idea.
Well, when they alerted us that it was not, I talked to the grant coordinator. They were going into the review period, and I felt very confident that I explained what happened. I said, oh, we can get this for you. We can start the process right now. We'll have those figures for you in 2 weeks. But because of the other applications that had come in, they did not, yeah. So I do feel very confident that if we were to apply and the figures do make sense for the township to go after this grant again, that we would have a good chance of getting it, but of course, nothing is guaranteed.
Clerk Swanson.
And my question had more to do with, like, when the engineering is done, because that park is, or that part of that is so sensitive to the water. And I've asked before about, like, the timbers that are plastic instead of the wood. Wood is just hard when it's water and there's so much of the timbers there that it might look great at first, but then I just would like, when they're looking at this engineering, that they really give thought to what would the cost be to make sure that it's as water friendly as possible. So I don't know if that's at this stage or whatever, but wood's probably not going to work in my mind, because
those areas that are underwater, yeah, you can use that tech stuff.
well, and even in the areas that they are, like, it looked great when it was put in, but you put it in, you build it to last. Whatever's going to last longer, I think we need to look at it, because it's going to be a big investment anyway.
So at this juncture, that would be part of the discussion, and it's a very big project. I think I've made the comment even last year, is every time I walk down that pathway and stand on the edge of the boardwalk and look at it, it's just wow. It's so beautiful, it's so expansive, but there's going to be actually quite a few things that we're going to have to meet with and discuss before that April 1st deadline, and that's part of the reason that Spicer would get started this week, is the pathway down. I think it's about a quarter mile. Right now, it's asphalt switchback, then into wooden boardwalk. The asphalt switchback is currently deteriorating. We know it's not ADA accessible. So there's going to be a way that we make the edge of the concrete up here all the way till we get to that first ramp, first ramp onto the boardwalk, ADA. That's going to be option number one. And I don't know if that's all asphalt, all concrete, all wood, all crushed limestone, or if we'll have to do bars like we had to do a loon feather to make sure that was ADA. The second part, as mentioned, is that section of boardwalk to the north of that ramp entrance that goes underwater. again, do we redo wood there? Do we do plastic Trex? Or do we do crushed limestone with culverts? There's going to be a lot that they look at, and I actually forgot to mention as well, the 6 bridges that we also need to look at because they're not ADA and they're currently insufficient for people to walk on, especially when it rains. So there's going to be a lot of options what to look at in terms of materials used, and they will be, again, evaluating all the pillars that go into the water. Because if the pillars that go into the water are not structurally sufficient, that unfortunately is going to open up a whole new conversation, and that will probably invoke new environmental stipulations that we'll have to adhere to.
Thank you.
That point makes me think of one other thing, because you have entrance to that area from Grove Road too. So is it going to look at that part of it? Because you have 2 places where you can get down to the park.
So it will not. That's a great
Walk in,
question.
so it's not going to.
We spoke to the grant coordinator on site last year about, once she dedicated that walkway down had to be ADA. Of course, we know that was a big change to the initial estimates and project as a whole. So we asked, can we utilize the Grove Road site? But we cannot, because it does not give you direct access to the boardwalk.
Yeah, and I don't mean that part. I just mean, like, if you're going to look at the whole park, we should be looking at the quality of what's happening on the way down from Grove Road as well as that, because those are 2 entry points from, like, 2 different places. You can enter from Grove Road without even having to pay anything if somebody wants to walk in, but you can't do that at the North Bay entrance. So I think if we're going to look at it, we should at least check and see, like, what does it look at that part of the point too, because I mean, if we're going to do it, it's going to be a big project. We should be making sure we look at all of those, in my opinion.
Okay, understood.
I had a question.
Trustee Rowe?
Did she say you have to make both entrances ADA?
No.
Do you have to make both ADA?
No, you do not. The entrance off Grove Road is not a direct entrance to the boardwalk itself.
This park is one of the, if not the #1 used park for walking. Residents in Ipsy City, they come from all over to walk. It's a beautiful, beautiful park. And it has held up very well since the early 80s, early 90s it was
90s.
built. So, but it does need a lot of work. And once we do this, you can apply for multiple grants, right? Not just the land and water conservation. Like, you could go federal, you could,
Yes,
it
you
will
could.
open it up. But we do have to do all the engineering and all the work in order to have it ready, shovel ready almost. So it is going to be very, very expensive, but the investment will last. Look how long it's lasted already, so it'll be well worth it. We have to plan our budget, because I'm sure it's matching funds.
Correct. It would be a 50% matching fund, just like the trust fund grant I'll mention later is. And the max for it is 500 matching, so $1 million is the most you can get through the state for this project.
But you can submit it different ways.
Can you do it in phases? I doubt if $1 million is going to get you there, but it's.
I would have to ask if you could do it in phases in terms of, and the only part you could potentially separate, and again, I'm going to say potentially, would be the 6 bridges. You'll have to do the pathway down, of course, the boardwalk itself, and that subsequent boardwalk.
But maybe you're saying you could get other grants, so if you got a match of $1 million here, then you could perhaps get more somewhere else.
Yes, you could.
I wonder if it qualified for border to border. I mean,
I think it would qualify for a lot of other grants, once we get this grant writer who's
design.
familiar with SHPO and all the requirements. We can submit it in different areas, and the support from the city of Ypsilanti would be critical. It's a regional park. The Grove Road entrance is the city of Ypsilanti, and then the Huron Street is Ypsilanti Township, but it's enjoyed by many. So thank you for bringing this forward. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7 is approve Spicer Group for General Parks and Recreation Grant Assistance Services for 2026. Motion Rowe?
Support.
Support Thornton. And I was just going to add that it is budgeted.
Yes, good
All in
evening.
favor? Or question?
I just had a couple questions, John.
Sure.
So if I'm doing the math right, this is somewhere between 18 and 30,000 for the year. And for that, we get reviews, discussions, research, lists may be provided, and some meetings with your office. There's no actual work done for that 18 to 30,000, or would that dollar figure apply to work if it's done? And what if we don't meet with those people at all during the month? Are we on a retainer and we still have to pay it for that month?
No, you do not. Those are all great questions. So this is something that came up in discussion regarding some of these park and improvement projects, and that I discussed with the Spicer team, who as mentioned in the prior agenda item, helped us out on a lot of these projects. And this was a proposal they put together using an hourly rate. If they do not use those hours, they will not charge. I do not believe that we will use all these funds throughout the year. The goal is they'll sit down with my office, go over the Parks and Rec master plan. We'll identify kind of some key goals that we would potentially look into. And then on their end, they're going to bring grants potentially to be applicable to us. If the township, full-time electeds and board were to choose to go after any grant, if they're actually applicable to our needs and our wants and our funds, that would come back to the board for approval. So that'd be a completely separate proposal. This is just to, I would say, give us a hand to identify grants that would be applicable to the township, and then the township would make the choice to go after them.
Okay. So when I read 15 to 2,500 each month, that doesn't mean we're paying it if we don't use it?
No,
Correct.
yeah.
That is just their estimation on what they thought they could do a month if the program were to go as they kind of imagined from our conversation. And I know that sounds very ambiguous, but it is something that they are very experienced and learned in grant processes, but as we've done this with them where it's not a specific grant we're going after at the offset, it was a way for them to broach what they thought it might be.
No, I'm good with the proposal. I just want to make sure we weren't paying for something if we weren't using it for that month.
No, and I,
Well, on page 1 of the actual contract, it said associated fees. We propose to do this work on a standard hourly rate basis, billing the township only for effort that we put towards this. The estimate for monthly effort would be $1,500 to $2,500, depending on the number of meetings we attend and applicable grants. So it is addressed in the actual contract.
Okay.
We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8 is budget amendment number 1. Clerk Swanson?
Sorry. Motion to amend the 2026 budget number 1, move to increase the general fund budget by $8,587 to $12,618,270 and approve the department line item changes as outlined. Move to increase the bike, sidewalk, rec, roads, general BSR 2 fund by $184,474 to $2,909,593 and approve the department line item changes as followed, or as outlined. Move to increase the 14B District Court Fund budget by $4,542 to $1,955,250 and approve the department line item changes as outlined. Move to increase the Compost Fund budget by $5,372 to $1,142,097 and approve the department line item changes as outlined. So moved.
Motion Swanson.
Support.
Support Eldridge. Is there questions or comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is to waive the portion of the financial policy that requires posting on Minton and authorize residential service department with the purchasing to seek proposals for professional services for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant project to replace the pavilion and the restrooms at North Bay Park. This will be brought back to the board. A motion is in order?
I would so move.
Motion Rowe.
Support Thornton.
Thank you. Support Thornton.
Sure,
John, would you
John.
like to?
Yeah, of course. John Hines, Municipal Service Director. So I'm requesting to waive the portion of financial policy that requires posting on Mitten to seek professional proposals for the prime professional service for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant that is going to replace the pavilion and restrooms at North Bay Park. I'm requesting to waive that portion due to the financial policy mentioning not having to post to Mitten if it's a professional service. And as we've not done that historically, but I'd like to work with the purchasing clerk to put together I would say a standard requirement that we're going to send to engineering firms to give us a proposal, but also set up meetings and, each firm will get an opportunity to meet on site with myself and other staff, and then meet in the township as well. You know, every firm is going to get given the same opportunity, but due to the expansive nature of what we're asking of them, putting it in a standardized document, I would feel would give an incomplete proposal opportunity for each prospective engineering firm. So this all goes with the second of the two grants to the MDNR that we applied for last year. This is for the trust fund, which, as mentioned, was to replace the pavilion and restrooms in North Bay. I have included pictures of what they were on, again, early winter 2023 when we did the site visit. And of course, that's now been 3 years, so you can understand that the conditions have only worsened over time. But although it's a very popular and functional pavilion, the concrete is very deficient. We've not been able to use the water fountain for many years. The restrooms give us a myriad of issues. We've had to close them and repair them often. And actually, due to the location of the restrooms, it's actually provided a kind of not welcoming environment for patrons to use, as well as our staff when they go to open or close them, depending on the time of day. The grant that the township applied for is a 50% matching fund, and it was for $308,600, which is a total project amount of $617,200. That does include everything from engineering to construction, and the prime professional that we'd be looking for is going to help the township put together the bid specs, obviously do everything in accordance with the MDNR and grant requirements, and be the construction administration. And per the MDNR's guidelines, any project over $15,000 must retain a prime professional, which is either a licensed architect or engineer in the state of Michigan.
Questions or comment?
Yeah,
Trustee Newman?
I have one. Based on my understanding of Mitten, and I know you mentioned that everybody pretty much submits the same template, so to speak. So without that, would you have a lot of inconsistent proposals? I mean, one proposal could be better than the other, whereas with Mitten, they were all pretty much on the same template, and you compared apples to apples, so to speak. Without that, one proposal may just be outstanding, and the other proposal may not be as outstanding. And then the Residential Services Committee would look at that, wouldn't they? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding.
No, not at all. No, appreciate that. So every firm is going to get given the same set of deliverables that we're looking for. The reason why the goal would be to do it this way is because their understanding of the project also plays a pretty key point. Everyone's going to be given the same questions, the same deliverables, and the same opportunities that the other is. Nothing is going to get something different. But to find firms in Michigan that actually oversee state-funded park grants, have done park improvement projects and do the construction administration is actually far more limiting than I would have believed. I have 4 that I know for sure have done it. OHM, Manikin Smith, Fishbeck, Spicer, but Bar Engineering does not do it. Carlisle Warman does not do it. I have to talk to Wade Trim. You know, all local vendors that the township have used, I'm giving the opportunity, and I've only found 4 so far that do this, but there are 4 that I know have done it and are familiar with Ypsilanti Township.
So just for clarity, everyone will be bidding on the same professional service.
Yeah, everyone will get yeah, it's just I don't want to utilize Mitten because I want to give it the time to give each one an individual interview and an individual meeting on site.
Then that means that they would have a better, that means they would have a better understanding.
Yeah, instead of just putting it in a document, because you can have a pre-bid meeting, but a pre-bid meeting in the middle of the weather that we're having on site, I would fear would not be sufficient to give them the full information of what we're trying to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Rowe?
I know that we have a new financial policy, and I know that I'm not that familiar with it, but used to be when you were gonna bid something out, like I know we're waiving this, but is this the same thing as we're authorizing you to go out? Because normally you would have that detailed thing that you're going out with, the instrument of services, you know, we want you to do this, we want you to do the design of the, and all, so I'm not sure. It says we're waiving that right for the posting. We're seeking proposals, but we don't have what it is that you're seeking.
Sure.
So I don't know if the financial policy requires that. It used to. You couldn't go to the board until you have.
Professional services are
Yeah,
treated a little bit different,
like
like architects, engineers, lawyers.
Like, I don't know what, are they doing design? Are they doing the whole thing? And this is going to authorize you to go ahead, just so I know what I voted. I'm gonna vote.
Yeah, so
okay.
it would just authorize me to work with the purchasing department to finalize that standarding list of asks, which come from the MDNR's guideline book, and of course are going to be specific to ours. And the last thing I wanted to add is, it will come back to the board for approval, of course, but at this point with the grant, just to clarify, we've not been awarded. The township board will have to accept the actual award from the state. It's a 4 to 6 month process, and we heard the news we were recommended in December. By starting now, we are able to incur costs because we put down 50% of the match, and the DNR will reimburse us if we get the grant.
When will you know?
They said 4 to 6 months as of December, so I'm planning on March to May. But at this point, you know, being able to decide on a prime professional, once the board approves it, we can actually, they can start putting together the bid plans. So there's, in a rosy world, theoretics that if by the time that we accept the award for the grant, we have the bid packet ready to put on the street, and we could potentially start construction this year. Now, in the past, the MDNR projects have taken longer for a few reasons. With Clubview, we had an issue with the land ownership, even though the township ownership, there was 2 separate parcels, and that prolonged that process. But this one, we know that we won't have the same land issues that we had there, and I do believe that we could get started this year.
One follow-up.
Yes.
So is the design already approved by, like, the set of concrete and where it's going to go and the size of the bathrooms? Is that, or are you doing that now? Going to do that?
It would be being done now. The only thing that's approved or recommended is the replacement of the pavilion and bathrooms at the park. And that's one thing that, again, full-time electeds and the board would have to decide, because how it is now, you know, I don't, at least myself personally, I don't think that's the best for the park in terms of how at least the building's orientated. But the choice would be to keep it as it is now in terms of the same footprint, even if we adjust the direction, or do we separate it out so the bathrooms are more easily accessible by Pavilion 2 and by just the walkers of the park or the people there for events. So that will be one up to the MDNR.
This is the North Bay, right?
Yep. It will be up to MDNR to allow us to change the footprint in that dimensions, and then up to you all to decide if you want it in that way or if you want to just keep it as is.
I just personally, I know this probably isn't the time, but I'm just going to share it. I personally, whatever works for staff and what you think is the safest, orientation-wise, but I want it to be something other than what we did at Lakeview.
Okay.
Because like, we kind of went down on that one, and I know things were tight, but.
Well, the bathroom was separated from the pavilion and it was connected.
Yeah, I know, it
in the
just,
past, right?
just doesn't look, it looks dinky, and that's all.
Yeah, there'll be a few options to look at. I mean, I understand that
Right.
thought from Lakeside, but the benefit was to, again, bring it off the pavilion. So if you're having a.
No, and I don't care about that, it's just the size overall and how it just looks so small compared, people have family reunions, and I'm not sure they can do all that anymore. It's not that size that they used to. It's a well-used park. For family events, I know.
Yeah, with what was approved, there'll be, a considerable amount of options that are presented. The budget for this is higher than what was at Lakeside and Fort Heritage, so.
And I'm not trying to be negative, I'm not trying to say that at all, so apologize if it's taken that way. Just,
Not at all.
y'all did good work.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have two questions. One is kind of similar to what Trustee Rose just mentioned. When you sit down with whomever you're going to sit down with and you come up with that design or those standards, would that come back before the board before it goes out to potential vendors?
Yes, it would.
Okay, and then you mentioned 4 vendors earlier that are in this southeast corridor. How do we get the word out to the rest of the state, Northern Ohio, Indiana, wherever it is? How do we get the word out that we're looking for vendors on this project so we're not limited to the 4 you mentioned only? Although they may be the correct one to go to, how do we get it out to more people?
No, and the goal is to get it out to more people, not just those 4, and that's going to be utilizing the MParks infrastructure as well as the MDNR infrastructure.
Yeah.
When we say infrastructure, what do you mean? How do we get the message out to potential companies to come in and look at this and maybe bid on it?
So I have contacts at both organizations, so basically it's going to be talking to them and see who their recommended prime professionals are in the area that do all of the above. Because doing all the above seems to be I would say the eliminator of firms right now. Some do great architecture engineering, but they don't do construction administration. The firms that do all of the above is what's, again, so far made it tricky to cast that wider net. But through the MDNR and MParks, there are a lot of engineering firms in this corridor that we can talk to.
Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is public comment. Are there any public comments? You just give your name for the record.
Hello, hi, Monica Ross Williams. I am following up on some comments I made before the County Commission, and I'm also coming here with the same thing. So with that, supervisors and members of the board, I'm speaking here today as Ypsilanti Township taxpayer and former elected trustee. I'm here because this board has reached a decision point, not a discussion point on public safety. And 2026 must be the year that action is finally taken. For more than a decade, Ypsilanti Township has paid a premium level for county enforcement services while consistently receiving less than what's been allocated. The township roughly funds 56% of the Washington County Sheriff's Department budget. Yet year after year, the township receives fewer deputies than what is promised. This imbalance is documented and is unresolved. This is not a short-term staffing frustration. It's a structural failure. From a fiscal perspective, township residents are paying a level for services they do not receive. From a governmental perspective, it's worse. Service levels fall short, leaving the residents without a clear remedy or line of responsibility. Recent governmental disputes, litigations, and ongoing questions about internal operations within the Sheriff's Department only reinforces this concern. But these are county level issues, Ypsilanti Township residents continue to bear the consequences without control, transparency, or the ability to reinforce performance standards proportional to what they fund. The board already knows this, and over the past decade, the township has studied its own public safety departments through committees, task forces, consultant reports, cost analysis, internal evaluations. Each time the conclusion has been clear, and each time the outcome has been delay instead of execution. More studies will not fix the chronic understaffing, more committees will not improve the response times, and more discussions will not change the simple fact that the township does not control its own public safety. Meanwhile, Pittsfield, Canton, and Van Buren Township has made this decision years ago to take total local control. They benefit from clear accountability, better alignment between funding and service, and transparency, performance data, and direct responsiveness to residents. This is why the continues dependence on a system the township does not control and cannot effectively hold accountable is no longer reasonable. When a funding partner repeatedly fails to deliver optional service, proportional service, the responsible course of action is to change the structure. If this board is serious about acting in 2026, the residents over the next 90 days must request the inclusion of the following concrete steps. First, direct the township attorney to prepare the legal framework required to establish a township law enforcement department. Second, authorize the transition plan with clear milestones and deadlines, not another exploratory study. Third, begin formal negotiation with Washtenaw County to wind down asset allocations and financial reconciliation. Fourth, develop a preliminary staffing, commanding, and budget model based on township volume and geography. Fifth, establish a community-based public safety oversight structure for board review. And finally, publish a public timeline with quarterly progress reporting so residents can track implementation. These are not radical steps. They are the minimal actions responsible governments requires. 2026 must be the year that the board move forward from discussion to execution. Continued delay is not a choice, and township residents have waited long enough. The residents deserve results and not another decade of discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Jeremy Haley, Township resident. The developer must have forgot that Washtenaw County Road Commission gets paid by Washtenaw County taxpayers. Just saying it. And did you also notice when he talked about selling the home that he didn't mention that Ypsilanti residents can move up to him? He just said people. He didn't care who, just people. Also, if you guys can come up with a resolution or something to put forth on the Washtenaw, or actually Washtenaw County Sheriff, so we don't have a recap on Cross Street here in Ypsi Township, that would be absolutely horrible. That's something to correct things there, because evictions are going to start going up in the next year or two. The economy is going to start turning. Unemployment rate already up to 5.1% in the state, so it is going to affect Ypsi Township residents. And if you guys want to change something with the data centers, you have to get our representatives to repeal the 2023 law that gave them the tax exemption. As soon as that gave them, they found that the exemption existed, they flew into the state. Get rid of that, and they'll all be pretty much gone. Also, ask our representatives, Jimmy Wilson, to start call on repeal the exempt status of all colleges and schools except for property tax. Make them come to the townships and the local municipalities in which they reside for zoning, to talk to you as they're going to do. They can keep their property tax, but they need to come to the people and tell us what they're doing. I want Jimmy Wilson to stand up and say that. I know he won't. That's political suicide for him. The whole Democratic Party will come down on him like a sledgehammer, and he'll be out like a snap.
Thank you, sir.
We need people with courage. Thank you.
There are no other public comments. We have under other business is to authorize professional consultants, like environmental professionals, historic Native American professionals, as well as vibration and noise, whatever professionals may be needed to assist with the location of the computation center at the University of Michigan, and that be brought back to the next board meeting whenever we retain them. But we are authorized to proceed with getting them. Oh, did we? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought with the attorney, we didn't move it?
You made a motion after the report.
Okay, strike my note. We had a motion to move it to other business, so strike that.
We have a letter.
The letter authorized under other business was added to approve the signing of the letter to all the elected officials for Resolution 2025-23 in support of moving the University of Michigan computation 2 data centers from the corner of Textile and Bridge to the ACM site.
So moved.
Motion Rowe. Support Swanson. Thank you for that clarification. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we will need a motion to go into closed session for discussion regarding the tentative agreement that was reached with the TPOAM 2025 through 2029 union contract. Motion Rowe. Yep, I wrote that down. Motion Rowe?
Yes.
No, motion Rowe, is there support?
Support.
Support Eldridge. Now roll call vote. Rowe?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Newman? Newman?
Yes.
Swanson?
Yes.
Stumble votes yes. Eldridge?
Yes.
And Thornton?
Yes.
8:07 is when we'll be going into executive session. Is the approval of the TPOAM number 2. Again, this is the approval of the TPOAM number 2 union contract, and we are out of executive session. A motion would be in order.
So moved.
Motion Rowe.
Support.
Support Newman. Is there discussion? I just want to thank the negotiating team, and as you start the last negotiations with 14B court, so the amount of work that you guys put out for such a small but mighty team, and I just want to thank you for doing that. I really do. So we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed? Eldridge? Motion carries. There is any board member comments? Adjournment is in order.
So moved.
Support.
Motion Eldridge, support Thornton to adjourn at 8:50. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.